Untitled Trip Game and A Dusty Trip were both made by the same developer, but A Dusty Trip was sold off and went down a more pay-to-have-fun route, which we all hope Untitled Trip Game doesn't do the same. Regardless, we are going to compare the two games, even though Untitled Trip Game is only in its alpha and still has work to be done on it. In terms of which game feels smoother and looks better, A Dusty Trip falls behind, with it feeling very basic, and not much attention to detail going on with the textures of the different objects and how the actual world looks. With Untitled Trip Game, you can see that the developers actually paid close attention to the details and how things should look on different objects. But similar to A Dusty Trip, the actual world itself could do with a lot more work. Untitled Trip Game is aimed at being much more hyper-realistic, having the car actually feel like you're in a car crash when you hit something at speed, making you have to start up the electrics in the car, then the actual engine, and so many more small details. Whereas A Dusty Trip is quite simply just you drive a car that you either buy with Robux, and it is extremely fast, but not actually any different to any other car. Or you choose to use a free-to-play car that has 50 things you need to worry about, and you just drive in a straight line, ultimately making it a much more boring game. It can be said that A Dusty Trip content is enjoyable for a while with them, now updating the game every week with new quests and small things to do. However, you do end up getting bored fairly quickly, and even once you do the quests, you don't exactly get a crazy reward that improves your gaming experience drastically. It can also be added that A Dusty Trip is much easier to play and simpler to get the hang of for someone who is just starting out compared to Untitled Trip Game, which you have to worry about charging the car battery, making sure you don't go too fast and up-oofing yourself, and so much more. Untitled Trip Game has a lot of potential for things that could be added to the game, and small changes that could be done and will most probably be done as the developers actually listen to community suggestions. We will just have to hope and see what direction it ends up taking in the future. But even in its alpha stage, it is far better than A Dusty Trip,